Are you stuck or confused about how to price your rental property? Well, you're not alone. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how we price our rental listings and our own rental properties step by step. So whether you're house hacking, preparing your first unit, or analyzing a property before you're looking to buy it, knowing how to price your rental the right way can make or break your numbers. So often, so many landlords think, oh, I'm just going to price my property based on my mortgage payment, or they're like, this number just feels good. That is not actual logic on how to price a rental property. You want to use real data and facts, not your feelings. Hey, I'm Leslie, and I help first-time landlords, house hackers, and homeowners lease and manage their rentals just like a professional. And real quick, before we jump into the video, don't forget to grab my free landlord resource guides using the link below in the description. They're packed with tools to help you price, prep, and manage your rentals the right way from the beginning. So before you even start to jump into researching pricing for your rental, you need to outline the key details of your rental property. I like to put this on a Google Doc, maybe just a simple marketing template that I have for every single property. And you need to define your key rental details that a potential tenant would be looking for, which would be the number of bedrooms, the number of bathrooms, the total square footage of the property or the apartment, the upgrades, does it have new flooring, remodeled kitchen, the different amenities that the property comes with, the parking situation, the yard space, or if there are any other outdoor areas, what your pet policy is going to be. Are you going to rent the property furnished or unfurnished? So before you even start researching rental comparables, you need to define these key details and outline these key details that your rental property has before you can really start researching the comps. Now, if you're analyzing a property, maybe you're looking to buy it or do a house hack and you haven't bought it yet, maybe you're even in the stage where you haven't even made an offer yet, you want to go through this list the same way as if it's already your rental property. You want to get in the habit of thinking like a landlord even during the buying phase. So let's jump into some live samples. All right, so step number one in pricing your rental property, I always like to start with just using Google Maps and doing a quick aerial overview, snapshot of the neighborhood to see maybe if there are some great places within walking distance or what some of the big attracting factors are of the property. So if you zoom out, you kind of get a feel for what the neighborhood names are, so you can use that in your listing description, and then also what some of the area convenience are, like restaurants, or if it's walking distance, like this one's close to the river, this one's close to some restaurants, some shopping. Then what I do is I take all of that information on the neighborhood and I like to pencil that out on listing description template that I use in just a Google Doc. And I also have all of the property information on here, like the location, the size, the layout, the upgrades, the condition of the property, the garage, the storage, the parking situation. I'll even do a quick internet search on neighborhood info on Nextdoor if I can find it. So you would just search the Nextdoor Arden Arcade is the neighborhood for this property. And then I would take this and copy this information just so I have it in my listing description. Now this example, this is just a property that's actively for sale that I pulled up that has some great pictures as a good display. And it is a studio, 1 bathroom, just under 500 square feet in Sacramento in the Arden Arcade location. And these are some of the details that add value, more or less, is there's a patio, the complex looks really nice, there's neutral paint, there's a built-in desk nook, some more built-in storage, there's a fireplace, this appears to be a Murphy bed, and there's wall AC, nice big windows, the kitchen, white cabinets with stainless appliances and granite countertops, tile backsplash, and then this is just a closet storage area for the kitchen, little pantry. And then this bathroom obviously needs some remodeling, but for this example, let's pretend the bathroom is totally remodeled. And there's also a nice big closet, which is pretty rare for a studio. The complex also has a pool, has a hot tub, has a community room, also has an on-site gym, and it's gated. So these are all really great features you want to talk about and pencil out inside of your listing description and your marketing template for your property. So you would just write out all of the information and the details, and then when you go to write your listing description, or if you're using another tool like ChatGPT, you can just copy and paste and create a really nice listing description quickly. Then what I like to do is I like to look at 3 different online estimator tools. And the first one I look at is Best Places. And you simply go onto bestplaces.net and you type in your zip code. And then you go into housing stats and scroll down to your unit type. And you could see a studio apartment is $11.80 per month based on their analysis. And then I'll just write that down so I have it. Then my next favorite tool is jumping back into Zillow. So we're back in Zillow here. And then you can scroll down in the listing, and right here it says Rent Zestimate. Go ahead and write that down. So another tool that I love using is RentFinder.ai, and I just use the free version, but it gives you a rough estimate of the rent analysis, and I write that down along with my other estimates, which are on Best Places and the Zillow's estimate, and then I just write those down to see where we're at. So just based on these 3 different online analysis tools, we have a range from $11.80 all the way up to $14.85. So now what we're going to do is jump into the actual comparables and see what has actually rented. And what I like to do is use RentFinder.ai first, and then I usually sort by location and see what's closest to the property. Our unit is 484 square feet, so this is pretty comparable in terms of size. And then what you can also do with RentFinder.ai is you can scroll down to the map view and you can hover over all the red dots here, and then you'll have the property information. So we'll start with the first one, and what you do is you simply just click on the Zillow link here, and then it opens up the property information. And what you'll do from here is then scroll down, and you want to get to this section down here where it's got all of the property history. You can see some rental history here. What does happen is you'll see some inaccuracies here. When data syndicates into tools like RentFinder or other sites, it says listing removed. That triggers the site saying, oh, it rented. That's not always the case. What we can see here, that the property went up in December and came off the market in February. So $1,400 a month is what the rental amount was. Then February 26th, they turn around and list it for sale. So that would tell me that the property did not rent at $1,400 per month, and it did end up selling. And you wouldn't use this as a rental comp simply because it did not rent. This is why you have to dive into the data down here when you're looking at pricing your rentals. Let's go back to RentFinder. Let's look at another one. Now for this property, I'm not really seeing any model match comparables. We're seeing a lot of just 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and they're larger in square footage. So sometimes RentFinder data, you'll have a ton of data. This particular property is not giving us a whole lot of data other than this one listing up here that did not rent. It actually went up for sale. Let's jump into looking at the actual comparables. And I like to do that. I like to start with Zillow. So when you're jumping onto Zillow, you can see really quickly that there's a lot of rentals here, so competition is going to be steep. But what I like to do is I always like to start by narrowing it down as close as possible to the bedrooms and the bathrooms and the property type. So I would go with use exact match, studio, 1 bathroom, and click apply. And we can leave all of this applied right here. And then I sort over on the side by the newest. Here we go. We have 1 property that is right in the complex, pretty much the same square footage, and it was listed 3 days ago. This is almost a model match comparables, what we would call it. You can see there's some slight variations in some of the features and the built-ins. The patio is a little bit different, but we've got 3 days on and 11 contacts, so that's definitely decent traffic. And then you want to just scroll down to this price history, and you want to see what they've been doing before. So it looks like maybe when it rented back in December, they did a 6-month lease, and they're putting it back up for rent at the same rental amount, $1,245. And our averages were anywhere between $1,180, $1,383, and $1,485. And this one's at $1,245 with pretty decent traffic and contacts, almost a model match. So 1245 looks pretty good for this unit. And you can just scroll in using the map tool, and you can just hover over properties like this and see what's in the area. Now, if you found this helpful so far and you want a full system to follow, go ahead and grab the free landlord resource guides at the link below in the description. There's a whole pricing and prep checklist and everything to help you stay organized before you even list your rental. So that's what I would be looking for. I would look at the most recently listed and then try to find a model match. And this is darn near model match, this property right here. And it's having really good traffic at $12.45 a month. So I would try to model after this one in terms of the similar price, and the presentation is really good. So this property will be rented pretty quickly, I would imagine. Now you can check Craigslist, but it's not typically going to give you much data. People don't really use Craigslist anymore. However, it's another tool in your tool belt. Always check sometimes if I'm not finding enough data on either RentFinder or on Zillow direct, then I'll go into the apartments and housing section and I'll just use the map tool. Most of the time I don't even filter this out. I just try to find where the property's at on the map and go that way. And our property is right in this section. And there's actually quite a few rentals listed, and that's probably because there's so many apartment complexes. So let's just filter by studio. So we've got a studio here for, this is not bad, $12.94 per month. And then what you're looking for on here is you want to see when it was posted, how long it's been on. So $12.94 per month. This is not bad at all. Pretty similar to our unit. Location similar, and it's $12.94 per month. And the other one was $12.45 per month. So we're kind of narrowing it down into this range of under $1,300 a month. This looks like a nice apartment community, and they are listed for $13.80 per month, which seems high. The apartment complexes, they're always pushing the top rents, and then they're offering concessions and specials. So these were posted 2 hours ago. They post these all day long, so not necessarily a good comparable, but you really just want to get a good range, rental range. And in our situation, it seems like about $1,200 to $1,300 is the range. Now, just a quick recap of everything that we covered in this video. So in the beginning, before you even start looking at the rental comparables, you want to outline all of those key details of your rental property: bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, amenities, upgrades, and so on. And I like to put this on a simple Google Doc, something that I have for each and every unit. Then what you're going to do is you're going to jump into some of the online tools that give you rent estimates. Then from there, you want to look into some of the neighborhood data, see what's nearby. Obviously, if your rental property is in an area that you're familiar with, you're going to know what is in the neighborhood. But say you're looking at a property that's out of the area and not somewhere you're very familiar with, then you want to get familiar with the neighborhood using things like Google Maps and Google Street View. And then you're going to dive into more online tools and look at actually rented comparables that are nearby the property that are also similar in terms of the bedrooms, bathrooms, the upgrades, and the amenities. Now, if you're in a market that shifts quickly, maybe is very saturated with a lot of rentals or has a lot of seasonality, then pricing your property too high can make it sit vacant longer, obviously. You really don't want to miss the mark when it comes to pricing. And then you also want to be looking at this data continually while the property is active and adjust quickly so you can cut down that vacancy. So dial in that listing price and then make sure you can justify that listing price with high quality photos, showcasing the upgrades, and then also creating a winning listing description and outlining your key lease terms. So that's the full walkthrough how to price your rental property, whether you're house hacking, prepping for your first unit, or analyzing your next deal. If you're looking at a project that you want to buy, or you're looking at your next house hack, or it's a property you currently own, you can use this same strategy for literally any property anywhere. And be sure to grab the free landlord resource guides using the link below in the description. They'll walk you through the pricing process step by step and help you lease your property just like a professional without the guesswork. Drop your city down below in the comments. I want to know where your properties are at. And as always, happy landlording.